Today's going to be an intense topic, but one that I believe will serve you, will help you, whether you're currently a parent, maybe a grandparent, or you're thinking about having kids, or you're looking at healing from emotional-based trauma, and that could have been from some inner child-based work. Let's dive into it right now. I actually did an interview with the author of Do the Work, I believe is the name of the book. If I'm incorrect, I apologize to Dr. Nicole LePera. She's absolutely fantastic. I've been following her work for quite some time. She has great Instagram posts. That's where we're taking this information from. But I also have a full 1-hour podcast with Dr. Nicole LePera, and I would love to link up her information with you as well. We even hope to maybe even have her as a special guest and speaker at next year's Reimagining Health Summit. We shall see. All of those things will come in good time, but for today, I want to make sure you get this information. So I'm going to take you through her, what she calls mini course, just about 5 minutes or so, 10 minutes or so on these slides, and share with you how it could dramatically improve your healing process, or even improve your overall relationships with your parents, with your children, with your spouse. Let's dive into it right now. So there is this terminology called inner child. That means our child inside of us still from when we were under the age, let's say, of 8 years old. So before until about the age 8, we are in this theta-based brainwave state. We're essentially absorbing everything around us. And the reason we're in that state is because we can't possibly learn everything we need to survive in life by simply being told what is right and what is wrong. So we have this mechanism in us that blocks the filter when we're in this theta state. And it enables us to look and see our surroundings, understand what is dangerous, what is helpful, what do we need for survival, because we're not always going to be with our parents. That's the inner child, but things can be absorbed before we're even conscious of it necessarily. Many of us don't remember before the age of 6 years old or so, 7 years old, maybe a lot of that. And unfortunately, there can be a lot of trauma that is created from these relationships. Now, in today's case, it doesn't even necessarily mean that your parents meant to do anything wrong. We'll be explaining it from the perspective that they were trying to do their best, but for other reasons that we're going to talk about in a moment, there still may have been issues around what's called emotionally unavailable parents. What does that mean? Let's share with you what Dr. LePera says about this. Emotionally unavailable parents. And why don't I do this? I'll give a book review as well. If you want to go, I'll talk about Dr. LePera's book, and I'll also talk about Emotionally Unavailable Parents book, which is a short one and a good read for people this Friday on the Friday Review podcast. Okay, I'll do that. But here are what unavailable or emotionally unavailable parents look like. Okay, and you just kind of match this up with maybe yourself or your parents or maybe your parents' parents, right? Because this is sometimes multi-generational. So emotionally unavailable parents rarely ask about you or your life. They center the conversations around themselves and their experiences, their hardships, their obstacles, what they are going through, not necessarily asking about what you're going through. They don't celebrate your accomplishments or even maybe ask about them or notice them. Or if they do, it's just in passing. They don't really want to get deep on it. They struggle to show affection to you. In a lot of those 5 love languages I spoke about before, a lot of people at the conference actually came up to me and said they really enjoyed that show on love languages. Why don't I link that up here today as well? You'll find all of today's show note links at stephencabral.com/2831. Going on now about emotionally unavailable parents. They feel awkward or uncomfortable when you have emotions. So if you're sharing emotions, hardships, struggles, or even a lot of highs, they don't know how to handle that themselves. They have difficulty with saying, I love you. They rarely give compliments. Sometimes they're only critical, meaning they never give compliments, but they will be critical. And they don't necessarily listen to you on an ongoing basis, or they invalidate you. Meaning, like, if you have an issue, they'll say it's no big deal. Like, you can overcome this. or whatever it might be. So they're not willing to be empathetic or listen. And just real quick, I'll go over the overview one more time, because this might be your first time hearing about this. It's really important. It's an extremely important topic. The reason I'm bringing this up at all is that I've had many of my deep dive intensive based clients. Those are my 3-hour consultations I do with people that I look through all of their lab work, whatever it might be, any labs they've run, and it's a 3-hour consultation, go through their story, right? So that's where this comes from. And many of them have past trauma. We go through their labs, we go through their personalized wellness plan and answer any questions. But a lot of it comes down to, when I talk about the de-stress protocol from the rain barrel effect, is emotions, stress, and success mindset. And sometimes it's difficult to overcome when there's inner child-based issues based on emotionally unavailable parents. So one last time, they don't ask about you or your life very often, or if they do, it's in passing. They center the conversations more around them and their experiences. They don't celebrate your accomplishments or notice them very often. They struggle to show affection or even say, I love you. They feel awkward or uncomfortable when you display emotions. They rarely give compliments, but often critical. They don't listen to you or invalidate you by saying it's no big deal or you'll get over it. Those types of things. So just ask yourself, did my parents have these struggles? Did I go through this when I was a child? So you just want to ask yourself that. Again, because I'm telling you, I've worked with a lot of clients that display then the issues that we're going to talk about now. So what happens is this, and I'm going to read directly now from Dr. Nicole's work. It's extremely confusing because these parents can be overall supportive. They provide you with shelter and food and come to your sporting events and other things like that. But it's impossible to connect with them in meaningful ways. They're physically present, but emotionally distant. They're unable or unwilling to get to know you as a human being. So they feel like a familiar stranger. Some adults of emotionally unavailable parents feel angry at their parents over small things. Just getting a call from them brings up irritability. They might shame themselves for feeling this and not know where it comes from. When our emotional needs aren't met as children, we develop core beliefs such as, my feelings don't matter. No one cares about what I have to say. I can't ask for help. I can't trust adults. I have to figure things out all alone. Let me repeat this one more time. If you currently have these feelings, or at least a couple of them, you may, without you even knowing it, may have been raised by emotionally unavailable parents. By the way, doing their best, we'll talk about that in a moment, but still emotionally unavailable. Do you think thoughts such as, my feelings don't matter? No one cares what I have to say. I can't ask for help. I can't trust adults, other adults. I have to figure things out all on my own, alone. Think about that. It's only for you to answer. As adults, there's a void or feeling of emptiness that we try to fill, usually with food or work or relationships or impulsive spending or gambling or anything else that numbs the pain. Here's how to heal. Recognize your parents' limits. Your parent was limited in their capacity and loved in the ways they knew how. It's not your fault you didn't get what you needed. I want to break this down for just a moment, because it may just be one parent. It could have been your dad was emotionally unavailable, or your mom was emotionally unavailable. It may not have been both, but you need the love typically from both parents. It's not that you can't be a thriving and amazing human being, even raised without parents. It's not that you can't be, you can. But some people are more greatly affected by this than others. And so here's the thing. What this is saying is this. First, we have to understand, and Dr. Nicole did not state this, but I know she's talked about this in the past. We have to understand is that as we become adults, we realize that our parents are also human. They're just like us. Especially if you become a parent and you have children, you realize the hardships, the stress, the obstacles of sometimes just trying to make it through the day with all your own stress. You might be your own health, your own job, your own work, and you're doing the best you can. It might not be great, but you're doing the best that you can with what you know how to do. We also have to keep in mind that our parents were raised by their parents, who may have been even more emotionally unavailable than they were, right? So maybe they were better than their parents, and maybe their parents were better than their parents, and everybody's just trying to get that much better. But the problem is, it's all about self-awareness. Most people are not self-aware enough, and this is not being derogatory in any way, to even know how they are affecting their own children. So sometimes we think that our parents may have done this to us on purpose, and that's likely not the case. They likely shared with you their love in the way that they best knew how. They may not have been able to verbalize it. They may not have been able to give you hugs or be there physically for you, or really a lot of the other love languages. Give you compliments, right? And bring you gifts. So those 5 love languages. But they gave you and did for you more than maybe their parents did for them. And that's what they knew how to do. And they knew how to up-level maybe 1 level, but not 3 or 4 or 5 from maybe where you're at right now. So we want to look at it from the capacity. 1, they're human. They're human beings. When we're children and we look at our parents, we think that they're not human beings. We think that they're, this superpower, that they have it all figured out. When again, once you become a parent, you realize you don't have it all figured out. So it's one way of reframing. It's not necessarily about letting anybody off the hook, right? I know that nobody and a lot of people don't want to do that, but we have to start to reframe this, because it doesn't serve us either by still being angry and upset when that phone call comes from a parent, or we think about spending time with them. But I do understand, and again, I've shared this with many clients that I've worked with, that sometimes you feel like your parents may even be just a familiar stranger, that because you never connected to them emotionally. Let's move on. Here's how to release a lot of that tension. Many people carry the hope that one day their parent will finally be who they needed. They keep seeking approval and validation from someone who can't give it. And I think that's important to look at that, because although you may be changing, and I say this all the time to my clients, like, although you're doing the work, right? Although you are changing, you're becoming more self-aware, gentler, kinder, more open, able to say, I love you to your kids or other people, even if it wasn't said to you. You have to understand is that they still may not be able to. And we can't force them to, right? That's something that they have to come to on their own terms. Maybe they didn't do the training and the different coursework, or the IFT, the internal family training systems, or the regression hypnotherapy, or the neurolinguistic programming, or the CBT, any of those things, right? Any of those psychological based programs. Maybe they haven't done that. Maybe you've already put in the work and you're in a better spot. So what happens is sometimes if you put in the work, you just expect the other people then to do that too. But what if they're not ready for that? What if they're not emotionally capable of doing that? What if it kind of break all they're holding on by right now? So we want to start to think about it like amazing that we are doing the work, right? That you're putting in the work, but we can't also say that that is where another person's at right now. So to expect that to change is going to only get you into more trouble in the future, because they haven't changed. And you're looking now for someone to make the change that isn't able to, at least right now. So a lot of times what we need to do is simply accept that they did the best they could with what they knew how to do. And it may not have been enough for you, and I get it, and I understand that. But dwelling on that and holding that against them is not going to allow you to take your healing to that next level. And that's what I want for you. Oftentimes, these deeper autoimmune issues, the psoriasis, the IBD, IBS-based issues of the gut come from this inability to release trauma, to release hardships and pain. And it's because we want that other person to be the person that we wanted them to be, that they should have been. And if we continue to hold on to that, whether it's true or not, it's the poison that you end up swallowing. right? And it's that hardship that you need to continue to deal with, rather than saying, it's not what I wanted, not what I expected, I needed more, but I realize now as an adult that no other adult is perfect, that there is a lot of stress that goes on with parenting, that maybe they did the best that they know how, and it was better than they were raised. And now you're, with all of your new wisdom, are going to do better now for that next generation. And it's also extremely important to release, because oftentimes people find this in a partner. If they were raised by emotionally unavailable parents, they seek out emotionally unavailable partners. And you might say, that doesn't make any sense. It's so strange. But it goes all the way back again to that vibrational based frequency, that comfort zone of what you know. It's not comfortable, but it's what you know. And so you stay there in life. Even if it's not where you want to be, you remain there, because that's simply the operating system that you're working with right now. So if not for anybody else, do it for yourself. Allow yourself to begin to move on and use the wisdom now to improve and mature as you get older. And the last part is this. The way that you start to really begin to do this is by working with an amazing therapist, to begin to, or journal on your own, like to allow these thoughts to flow. Most people keep them bottled up, but you will need to ask the questions, begin to journal, and also spend time getting to know who you are, right? To know you do have amazing qualities. You are intelligent. You are talented. You do have more potential than even where you're at right now, whether anyone told you that or not growing up. You are unique. You are significant. You do matter. And once you start to understand that and your innate value, your self-worth will climb, and you'll actually then be able to be far more kind with those people that did harm to you, whether intentional or not, because you become good inside of you. And when you're good, you don't need to want to harm anyone else or feel like they've harmed you. Remember, I've done a previous show on this as well, but it's an amazing saying, and I believe it holds true. Only hurt people hurt people. When you see people really throwing rude remarks online, on social media at others, or doing all sorts of, hater-based videos, I've never understood that. But I do understand that hurt people hurt people. I don't know any of my friends or colleagues or anyone who would ever say negative things to other people. Even if they disagree, they can have a disagreement, but they would never go after them and speak negatively online. And we see a lot of that. But when I see that, I understand this person's hurt. They're taking it out on others, because if they were good, they would never do that. Anybody with a heart filled with gratitude and perspective, which is what we're talking about now, would never do those things. It's not easy healing from these things. I've worked and I've spoken with many, many people, but I want you to know is that you can heal, and it can get better week by week, little by little. But in 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, it'll be worth it. You won't even recognize the individual who sits here today. Hopefully today's show was helpful. Thank you so much for tuning in. I thank you. I appreciate you. Do feel free to share this show with anyone you believe it could serve. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. Before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I want to make sure that you're getting our daily content, not missing out on anything functional medicine, wellness, weight gain, weight loss, anti-aging, living longer, stronger, and all of the most cutting-edge research. And if there's any topics you want to hear, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Take care.